Hello, this is Mr. Cox with A Science and Animal Video. In this case, it's more science. Don't forget to push like if you like the video and subscribe for Mr. Cox's Supercharged Science and Animal videos. A lot of things I'm doing is like elementary science and animals. I want to talk today about a little more, a little deeper science, not real deep, but I may want to go into some of those things in the future on string theory and some things like that. But today I want to talk about science fiction versus real science and that type of thing. When it comes to some of the things being put out there about things like that the moon is hollow and it's not real, it's not a natural object, that type of thing. Of course, there are people that believe the same thing or similar things about the Earth, that it's just a hollow structure with a whole civilization or civilizations inside of it and a sun inside of it and a whole bunch of things. Just looking at science, and I'm not looking, when I say what people believe, that's one thing, versus science and what we can see scientifically from observations from the data. There are some major problems with the idea, of course, that the Earth is just hollow. And when I get in, I'm going to do another one on spherical versus flat Earth. I feel like that's been beaten to death by everybody, but I'll have to chime in on my side on that as well at some point. I've taught in the classroom about that for a number of years. But just talking about the Earth being hollow, not whether it's a sphere or not. Let's look at it as a sphere and whether it's hollow. Now, we know that there are large cave systems like Mammoth Cave, Carlsbad, caverns, all kinds of caves and caverns and structures and tunnels. And there's a lot of man-made tunnels under the Earth and mining and large mines and all those types of things. So whether it's the Earth or the moon, I'm not at all indicating that there couldn't be large caves or large caverns. There's a difference between caves and caverns, but I'm not going to go into that here. Underground or large tunnel systems, whether they're man-made or, let's say, aliens. I'm not a big believer in intelligent alien life coming here to Earth at this point that we've ever really seen that. I know there's a lot of information coming out about that right now and things like that, and I'm not saying it's impossible. One of my big hang-ups on it all, just from a scientific standpoint, is of course the Fermi paradox. Why haven't we seen them before, and that type of thing. Another thing is, a big thing with me is, if life is so advanced from another star system that it's able to travel here, survive, and come to Earth, why would it be hiding from us? Could it hide from us, or would it be in such large starships that we would detect a long ways out? Why would our government and all the governments of the world be in collusion to hide it, that there's alien life? How could they hide that? Such an advanced species of beings coming here, why would they be hiding from us? It makes no sense to me. They would have landed, taken over, killed us all, or made us into farm animals, or whatever they were going to do. We would know they were here if they were on Earth at this point, I'll say. But to say whether or not they could have tunnels underground or live in caverns or that type of thing, I'm not saying that couldn't be. I'm just saying, why would that be? So same thing with the moon. Let's look at it from a solid versus hollow sphere type of, we can see it's a sphere looking at it from Earth. So there's no question whether it's flat, that type of thing. It's a sphere. You can see Earth's shadow across it. You can see other features of it. You can see that it's a sphere. But there's some people, now let me say this, I like science fiction, I write some science fiction, I've read a lot of science fiction, I enjoy science fiction, I love science fiction movies, so I'm not knocking any of that, and I'm not saying that there couldn't be extremely large underground caverns on the Earth with aliens living in them or whatnot. Again, I come back to the thing of why they would be hiding from us, how they could hide from us, what would be the point of it. But let's just say, that was the case. There's no reason there couldn't be large underground areas, as far as I'm aware of scientifically, on the moon or on Earth that such creatures would live in. Again, why would they be hiding there? But that's another thing. However, when it comes to the idea that the whole Earth is just hollow, or that the whole moon is just a hollow structure that's made by aliens, and that it's actually a spaceship that's put up there around Earth, let's think about this from a number of perspectives. Number one, our life systems on Earth are based on the moon and its gravity as it goes around the Earth. It causes our tides. However far back you think life goes or doesn't go, where you're looking at it scientifically, esoterically, or religiously, or whatever you're looking at, the tide system has been in a long time. Our life is based on it. Much of the, all of our ocean and everything that takes place on the Earth is based on that on the tides. If the moon were hollow, it wouldn't have enough gravity to cause the tides that it's making. Then you would also have to go back and think, if it was made by aliens, you're not really grasping, people aren't really grasping the size of the moon. Yes, it's much smaller than the Earth, but it's massive. To make that large of a structure, again, you're talking about alien life that would have capabilities that would arrive in massive fleets of gigantic starships. And we would know they're there. They wouldn't be hiding in a hollow moon from us, as far as I can ascertain any reason why that would be. I'll put it that way. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just highly improbable in my way of thinking. But there wouldn't be enough gravity. There also wouldn't be enough gravity to hold the moon in the orbit that it's at around the Earth if it were hollow. That just comes down to scientific data, formulas. It can be easily calculated. We know the gravity of the moon. We know the density of the moon, the average density. Gravity is based on the mass of an object, on the particles that are in it, in the number of protons, electrons, neutrons, in the atoms, in what it's made of, what the atomic elements are, and what percentage of each atomic element, what the density, how close those atoms and particles are together, and how far apart they are. We know the moon's density. We know generally what it's made of. Of course, we haven't been to the center of it, just like we've not been to the center of the Earth, but we've made all kinds of measurements. We've bounced sound waves through the Earth, and we're able to determine approximately what we think the inside of the Earth is made out of. And there's a lot of scientific models that seem to only work, with the information that we have. So the moon, the size it is, where it's at, its distance from Earth, its orbit around the Earth, would not be so if it was an alien structure that was hollow inside. Now again, I'll give you the fact that it could have massive underground tunnels. Just thinking, from a sci-fi perspective, crosses science, and large cavern areas, or large areas that some past life form or aliens have mined out, that type of thing. I'm not a big believer in that, but I'm just saying that's a possibility. But for the whole thing to be a completely hollow structure made by aliens, there's no science behind that. We wouldn't have the tides. The moon wouldn't have the gravity it has. When the astronauts arrived at the moon, there wouldn't have been enough gravity to hold them. They would have floated off. By the way, like if you look at moons of other planets, like just Mars, Phobos and Deimos are so small that the gravity is not strong enough to hold them into a sphere, so they're like oblong structures, very small structures. So it'd be much easier to imagine something like that being alien made. But again, we can measure the density of that and whether it's hollow and that type of thing, if we do enough studies on that. But for the moon, Earth's moon, I cannot scientifically imagine any way that it would just be a hollow structure made by aliens or some of the life form, or some past um, humans, or whatever you could come up with. And we wouldn't have the gravity of the moon. We wouldn't have the gravitational pull on the Earth. We can measure not only the tides, but the Earth and the moon are in gravitational lock. All of that none of that would be true if the moon were hollow. Then you'd have to try to figure out how, at the size it is, how any kind of being could construct something that large and get it not to collapse on itself, and that type of thing. We are finding some evidence of volcanic activity that may be more recent than what we thought on the moon. We know there was past massive volcanic activity. Again, why would that be if it was an alien structure? There would not be a core. There may not be an active core in the moon now, but there's still a core. We've done all these scientific studies. We've been up there. We've taken rock samples. It's not just made out of foam or something like that, So that's just my take on that. I wanted to share that with you again. I'm all for sci-fi. All that's interesting. But when it meets hard science, and we look at things like the moon being hollow or the Earth being completely hollow, I can't see any way for the science to be behind either of those things. Again, there could be large underground structures in either one of those. I think I'm probably going to write some articles and put them out on both of these items when I get time as well, but I wanted to put this video out there to give you something to think about the next time you hear somebody say that. And there's people that are saying that the United States sent a spaceship up to just crash into the moon to see if it was hollow, and they found out it was hollow. It rang like a gong or something. Okay, we did have a spaceship crash into the moon as it degraded from orbit. It had been in orbit of the moon. I don't think we were sending it there to try to crash into it. It was in orbit for some time, and after some time it starts to degrade in orbit and hits. But again, we could have hit a spot. There may be some type of data, something that they're referring to, where we might have hit some kind of hollow underground structure. Let's just say, just play aliens advocate. Let's say that there was a large metallic underground structure that gonged like a bell when it was struck. Of course, the chance of them hitting it by accident or on purpose, knowing where it was at, would be a feat that's unimaginable. But let's say they did, it wouldn't mean the whole moon was hollow. It would mean there was some underground metallic based base. Of course, there's people that believe again, I'm just getting into sci-fi here and conjecture and things, to believe that the Nazis put bases up there, and our own government has bases up there, and the Soviets had bases up there, all those kind of things. We don't presently have any data to show any of that. There's a lot of things to look at why that would have been very difficult to occur, but let's just say that one of those human groups had put a base up under the ground on the moon, or aliens, and we hit it and it sounded like a gong. That's much more plausible to me. It is unimaginable, almost as that is, than the moon's all hollow. So I'll leave you with that. Check into the science on these things as to just thinking when somebody says something is so, and putting all this information out there, because you can't really see the science behind an all hollow moon, and certainly not behind an all hollow Earth. So, Mr. Cox, supercharged and intercooled science and animal videos. Hit the like if you like it, subscribe.